But, one of the things you talked about was abuse in a relationship. And, that doesn't always mean physical abuse.
Right.
That can also be psychological and emotional abuse. Mm-hmm. So we find that is very, very prevalent even amongst Christians. So why is there so much abuse in the church? I mean, child abuse, the sexual abuse. I mean, just a sidebar, I went to preach in a all Caucasian community in Kansas once, and the Lord spoke to me and said, "You're going to preach about abuse, about sexual abuse and abuses in the community." I said, "Lord, I don't know these people, and I'm a black guy in an all white. You're gonna get me lynched out here." But I obeyed God, and there was tremendous healing because it was revealed. The pastor called me a week later, and he said, "Man, my office has been filled with people just coming, opening up about things that they're going through." So, we don't really realize a lot of times as leaders how much abuse is going on in the church. So what suggestions would you have, or what reasoning would you have behind that?
Well, first of all, I think the reasoning has to do with some of the things that I've already referenced as it relates to my own issues with pride. A lot of times in the church, there's pride because the church doesn't want the world to know that this is happening within the confines of the church. Literally, sometimes within the confines of the church. Yeah. Church leadership is often guilty of being abusive. We can look at the number of cases out there where pastors have impregnated their congregants while they were married. But it's tolerated. People don't say anything. People become complicit in that because they don't want to reveal the sin that is so evident, not even recognizing how much power they're giving to the enemy to operate through those gates that are opening, that are wide open while they're trying to keep secrets. And we particularly, I think Black people, at one time I believed that it was only Black people, but I've learned over time that there are other cultures who have that same issue with regard to what happens at home stays at home. And so when we're learning that at home, that when something bad happens at home, you better not talk about it. You better not tell nobody. Then it carries over into other systems like the church. Then what happens in the church stays in the church. We can deal with this ourselves. We don't need to let the outside world. Do you know what they'll do to the church? You know how this will make God look? All those tactics that, again, I believe are adversarial tools and mechanisms used to continue to keep the damage manifesting and multiplying. So there's the reasons, or part of the reasons, but they're multiple, because it goes all the way back to even centuries and centuries ago when abuse was happening under the confines, where they were using God as a cover. Using God as a cover to engage in very sinful acts that were totally blasphemous, really. Look at what happened while Moses was up on the mountain, and what was happening back behind the scenes. And so we really have to recognize our own contribution as men and women of God, as the church as a whole, how we have fostered some of these acts of abuse and dysfunction by covering it up, trying to be silent, trying to keep it secret, versus putting it out there and holding one another accountable, holding the church accountable, holding leadership accountable, and doing it in the way that God would have us to do it. Now, you asked the reason, and what was the second part of the question?
What can we do? I mean, should a congregant go to their pastor, or should they go? I mean, now that we know that there are Christian people that are equipped to handle such problems, how would a person who feels trapped in that circumstance or that situation, how would they come forth and just expose it? Do I go to my pastor, or do I, if I don't have any insurance, what do I do?
I think you go to the pastor first, or depending on how the ministry has that set up, because some ministries advertise that they have a counseling ministry. So if they're advertising or they're making it known to the congregants that you have a counseling ministry that they can access, or they have professionals that they can access, then you go directly to that, to that ministry or that counselor. If it's not made known to the congregation, then you begin with the pastor, or his assistant, or someone in leadership, to get some direction of what those resources are. I would encourage any pastors out there, ministries out there, that if you don't have a counseling ministry within your ministry, or you don't have professional mental health folk in your congregation that you access, then get a hold of some resource lists that you can make available to